Naadabindoopanishad. Naadabindoopanishad. This Upanishad belongs to the Rigveda. The Upanishad deals about the practices, the result of the practices, the methodology of the practices, and the various effects of the practices. An entire practice of all these variations are rooted in the pranava, that is the Om. So basically, Naadabindoopanishad is about Om and its philosophy, its chanting, its meaning, and its effects. And the Upanishad begins with beautifully explaining Vairaja Pranava Swarupam. Vairaja is a derivative from the Viraja, the Brahman, the all-pervading energy. And the significance of that, the symbolic of that, the manifestation of that, that expression of that is the Vairaja. And Vairaja Pranava Swarupam is the explanation of the form of the Vairaja. That is, Om Pranava symbolically explained as a Vairaja Pakshi, Vairaja bird, an imagery. Then, when the Vairaja bird, the Vairaja Vidya, that is the Omkara Vidya, the Pranava Vidya. The comparison is the Om has been compared symbolically with the bird and named as Vairaja. That's why it is called as Vairaja Vidya, Vairaja Pranava. And while explaining, the letter A is the right wing of the bird, U is the left wing of the bird, is the tail, and the Ardhamatra is its head. So its legs and the like are the gunas, the trigunas, and its body is the truth, the satyam. The dharma is its right eye. Adharma is the left one. And in the feet of it is the Bhorlokaha. The hip portion is the Swarlokaha. The navel region is the Maharlokaha. The Janalokaha is the head region. And Tapolokaha is its throat. The Satyalokaha is in the middle of the eyebrows and the forehead. How beautifully, when we meditate and take up Om as an object of meditation, how we can conceive, focus our mind, concentrate the mind with this beautiful imagery of the Om as a bird. Then continuing the technique, this Vairaja Pranava sadhana, Vairaja Vidya, the Omkara Matra containing the A has thousands of angas. And is composed of thousands and thousands of limbs. And this understanding and experience of all the intricacies of the akara is the revelation of the Hamsa Yoga. And this is how, by understanding it, experiencing it, focusing it, the Vairaja Vidya removes, erases all the sins, papa karma. That is how the Upanishads goes deeper into the dimension. And the four matras of the Omkara are further being described beautifully. The Akara relates to the Agni, the fire. The Ukara relates to the air, the Vayu. The Makara is the sun. Akara is the Agni, the Virajaha. Ukara relates to the Vayu, the Sutra Atmaha. Then the Makaraha is the Bijatmaha, Sthula, Sukshma and the Karana. And the Ardhamatra is the Varunaha, the Turiya it is. And this is known as the Omkaraha. And these four matras have different durations. And these durations, focusing on that, contemplating on that, meditating on these durations, the gaps, and that is the dharana on each matra. Then the Upanishad goes further, explaining the 12 different matras of the pranava. The Vairaja Pakshi, the four matras, then the further details of the 12 matras. The first matra is the Ghoshini, the second is the Vidyut, the third is the Patangini, the fourth is the Vayu Vegini, the fifth is Nama Dheya, and the sixth is called the Aindri, the seventh is known as the Vaishnavi, and the eighth one is the Samkari, the ninth is the Mahati, and the 10th is Dhriti, and the 11th is Nari, and the last is the Brahmi. The names themselves signifies the importance of the Omkara and Pranava and an imaginary and symbolical representation for the meditation on the Shabda and the Rupa, the Nada. And the benefits derived by this is beautifully described by the wonderful Upanishad. And the Upanishad describes how these things are to be achieved, how these things are to be actually practiced. The actual methodology and the practice has been beautifully described in the Upanishad. How it is to be inquired into the existence and the non-existence of the each one. And the Upanishad describes Turiya, Turiyadigam Gamo Upayadbhutam Nadanusandhanam. It describes the methods of the attainment of Nadanusandhana. The actual technique has been explained. And it explains that one should assume Siddhasana. It prescribes Siddhasana. Then, in Siddhasana, maintain the Vaishnavi Mudra. सिद्धासनस्थितो योगी मुद्रां सन्धाय वैष्णवीं शृणुयाद्दक्षिणो कर्णे नादमन्तर्गतं सदा. Dakshine karne nadam antargatam sada. Then he will listen the inner sounds in the right ear. And this sound, when constantly practiced, will draw every sound from outside. Listening to the sounds reaching to the right ear from the faraway distance, long distance, to the closest to the right ear, and to the inner sounds. Similarly, after overcoming one side by means of what is inside, it reaches the Turiya state. Then the various sounds are heard, and then the sounds will be subtler and subtler. And the subtlety of the sounds have been beautifully described. How from the gross sounds to the subtle sounds have been mentioned, just for an understanding. At first, the sounds of the ocean waves, then the clouds and the thunder, then the sounds of the waterfalls, the tabor and the big bell, then the military drum, dundubi, then the twinkling of the bells, then the soft sounds of the flute, and a whispering sound of a bhramara. These are the sounds to be heard on a persistent practice. Only the subtle sounds should be listened to in the presence of a multiple sounds. See the technique given. In the Vairāja Vidya, using the nada, the technique has been explained. Sitting in Siddhasana, adopting the Vaishnavi mudra. Vaishnavi mudra is just keeping the eyes open without twinkling or wings, no wings. And the mind is engrossed in introspection and drawn into the root of the sounds. And then, from the grossest to the subtlest, the sounds have been heard in a series of continuity. From the largest, from the longest and the grossest sounds, slowly withdrawing the mind to the nearest, closest and the internal sounds. This is the actual technique suggested to be practiced as a Vairāja Vidya, keeping the Om and Pranava as an important dimension. Then slowly, after internalizing this Nada Anusandhana, Nadasya Mano Niyama Mana Samardhyam, that is, how from the withdrawing from the external sounds, being aware and engrossed only in the internal sounds, even in that the most subtlest of the subtlest sounds, Makarandam piban bhungo gandharapekshate yatha nadasaktam sadachittam vishayam nahikamshate baddha sunada gandhena sadhya santyak chapalam nada grahanatishyanta antaraga bhujagamam. Beautifully it explains, Makarandam piban bhungo, bhunga, that is a honeybee which drinks the honey and it does not like the sweet scents. It gives up. because it is engrossed in the Makarandam. The mind always captivated by the inner sounds and relishing in that. It will not relish any other functions because it is engrossed in the most subtle, sweet sounds. Another imagery is given, another example is given. The mind, like a snake abiding in the hole of this interior body, caught by the snake charmer's sound, completely forgetting the world. It does not run away anywhere because it is one-pointed. These are all the suggestions given to explain, to convince. And another one, for an infatuated Gajaraja of the mind, roaming about pleasures in the garden, a sharp goad of a sweet sound commands the ability to bring under control, like an ankusha controls the wavering gaja. A soft nada controls the wavering of the mind, saying that sound plays the part of the net which ensnares the deer in the interior of the body. Just like a deer, a mruga is caught in a net. Similarly, the entire mind gets caught in the soft net of the soft sound. The nada has been given various suggestions and imageries to understand. And finally, nada arudha yoginam videha mukti labha. The real form of that nada, which is a final end. The nadaha, the pratyagatmaha of the pranava, is very self-luminous. So the practice is subtlest of the subtlest sounds are heard, or the whole mind is getting merged into it, and that is the pratyagatmaha. It is giving up all the external things. So using the sound itself as a tool, as a method, slowly the mind goes from to the root, origin, the base, the bija of the sound itself. From the externally expressive manifested sound to its root, unmanifested level of the sound. This is Nada Anusandhana. And that is how Sarvavastha Vinirmuktaha Sarva Chinta Avivartataha Mrtavattishtato Yogi Samukto Natra Samshayaha Shankha Dundubhinadancha Nashrunoti Kadachana Kashtayagnoyate Deha Unmayavastatha Dhruvam Na Janati Sa Shitoshnam Na Dukkham Na Sukham Tatha Na Manam Na Avamanam Cha Satyam Katvatu Samadhina Avasthatrayam Anvetina Chittam Yoginaha Sada. This experience of the sadhaka, yogi, the practitioner, that affects, the result is explained in these Nadarudha yoginam videha muktihi. By this Nadanusandhana, what is happening? What is the result? What is the experience? Released from all the states of the cares. He will be like a dead man, shavaha, but is liberated. free from all the disturbances, but engrossed in himself. He will not hear any sound at all. No sounds are heard by him because he is like a kashtaha. No heat, Ushna, Shitala, he is a Dvandvatitaha. Nothing will affect him because these effects are not perceived by him. Because what is to be perceived, the perceptor, lost to the external and engrossed and engaged in its own root self. And this is the Videha Muktaha. This is how Naadabindoopanishad explains the technique from the Nada to the Bindu of the Nada. Naadabindu. From the manifested sound to the unmanifested sound. So Naadabindoopanishad has this wonderful explanation, practice for all the yoga practitioners in its wonderful 56 mantras belonging to the Rig Veda. Whenever we chant Omkara or whenever any sound is heard, the ringing of the bird, bells, the sounds of the birds, the sounds of the waves of the ocean, the sound of a waterfall, or any musical instrument, and intently listening to it, from the gross to the subtlest reverberations, the mind is taken from its wavering state to the unwavering state. That is how Naadabindoopanishad teaches, proposes, suggests a wonderful technique for the quietness of the mind. And that is a state physically alive but mentally dead to the external. That is how the Naadabindoopanishad gives the name Videha Muktihi, Videha Muktaha. Let us try to practice this beautiful technique in our regular yoga practices. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.